Right. Anyway, it is 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order for the work session. Up first, we have the BS&A financial software review.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. All right, thank you for joining me to talk about some finance software upgrade. Very exciting. I try to make everything in finance exciting. So we just have a brief agenda here. Just going to talk a little bit about what we have currently, what vendor staff is recommending, and what kind of new processes there will be. What's the plan for financing this new software, and what kind of impact will it have on the future budgets? And what additional information will I have, and then next steps, and then any questions from you guys. So why do we need finance and utility billing software? Well, I was super excited when I found out when I was interviewing actually for the city of Carver that you guys were looking to change finance and utility billing software, because I have been researching this for over 6 months, and at the city I was before, unfortunately it did not go through at that city. So I am very aware of what a city needs for finance software, what's out there, the different vendors that are available, and why you need really good technology to support a city. So like I said, I have a lot of time into looking at the different softwares that are available. And one of them that I have looked at is one that I am suggesting tonight is called BS&A. So financial management and billing software contain all the data to run the city. City rates, names, addresses, it's just a big, huge database. And this database needs to talk to each other, and it needs to be up to date and current. It's important that it's accurate, and it gives the end user, which means staff, what they need and what they want out of the software. So we've been using Banyan data systems for 10 plus years. We are currently using 3 separate modules: fund accounting, utility billing, and point of sale. Point of sale is for when we take in the money. These modules do not talk to each other unless we are making entries to go in between each other. So it's sort of inefficient.
But they're all Banyan, but they don't talk to each other.
That's correct. Okay. Without us making them talk to each other. So they don't integrate. Integrate is the kind of the key word I want to use there. So due to these limitations, the city began planning for new software in their long-term financial plan, as far as I could see back in 2018. And the original implementation for this was set for 2021. The building inspections department is currently using the BS&A building inspections and community development modules. And I've been talking to Nick, and he really does like it. And he can do his inspections out in the field, and they currently have the on-premise solution, and they do have a cloud version of this available, so that's kind of exciting. So why BS&A for the city of Carver? I have listed out some reasons why I like it, why I think it would be good. Designed exclusively for the public sector, expansive reporting capability. I could go on and on here, but if I had to pick my 2 favorites, I would say complete module integration and the over 25 years working with government clients. So they know our specific little specialty situations that we run into. TIF, the city workers that they work in 3 different departments, and they make a certain rate when they work on the weekends, and they know all of these weird things that we do here at city. So it's just, they understand what we need the system to do. So that's why I like BS&A. So
can I ask a question
yeah.
on the bullet points on the top right? What's Laserfiche?
Oh, I will get into that a little. Yeah, so Laserfiche, I think I might have mentioned it a few weeks ago, but it's a really weird word that I'm not really fond of, but that's the name of the company. Okay. So Laserfiche is a document management system, and my desire for Carver is to go paperless. So right before I left my other city too, I was able to get them to go completely paperless. And so that's what Laserfiche is, and we are currently rolled out. I have like a little guinea pig of employees working on it right now. I have like 3 of them. We're starting to test documents and roll them into paperless, so that's what Laserfiche is.
Is that the same as the Laserfiche that I remember from college?
Right,
Like,
yeah, that's what I
I
think.
think microfiche.
Microfiche.
Yes,
Yeah,
laser
okay,
was
okay.
probably a thing back then.
Yeah.
And Laserfiche is a branding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
and yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, okay.
You'd think they could come up with like a better name for that, but
Yes.
anybody I say that to, like my husband's in IT and he's like, oh, that sounds really advanced.
Very modern.
Yes, I know, so. But Banyan Data Systems, also known as BDS, I threw together, so I asked Kathy, who is our accountant, and I asked Brenda, who's our utility billing clerk, give me your pros, give me your cons, and I threw all of them together here. Pros, it's affordable. The auditors like Banyan, and staff is very comfortable using it, and you know what we're doing, okay? The cons, again, they're not integrated. One of the biggest cons for me right now is only one user can be in utility billing at a time. So if somebody calls and they want to know their utility billing balance, and Brenda's in the system, I have to run from my office and be like, can you please look up their balance for me when I could be the one giving them their balance?
Or get out of the system.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's very frustrating for me. So the customer support isn't great. And then there's additional IT costs to support this system, and I can go into that in a little bit here too. BSNA software, pros and cons. Again, completely integrated modules. If Nick goes out and does an inspection at, I'm sorry, I don't know all of you guys' addresses, at Brent's house, and then he pays his water bill, I can see all of that. It's all integrated. And then he maybe gets a long grass letter, that's all gonna be in there too. So. Another thing I like is you're not paying per user. You don't have, number of licenses. So I can give, all my managers are gonna have licenses so that they can go in and approve invoices. They can go and see the invoices. They're not gonna go around and do journal entries because they're gonna have limited access to certain things. But they are going to be able to do that without me paying, without us paying extra licenses.
So how many, what is the top, do they have any tiers of licensure?
No.
Assuming?
Unlimited licenses.
It's a site license.
Yeah, a site
Okay.
license, thank you. The drill down capabilities, phenomenal. Geeky accounting stuff for me, it's like you can just keep drilling down. Say you see the entry for payroll, keep drilling down. You can actually drill down to that person's pay stub, like all the way down. It's just fantastic. That's exciting for me.
And there's a back end for the employee to get in and see their pay?
Yes, a timekeeping module, yes. Cons, implementation costs. So you get what you pay for. It's expensive, not gonna lie. So there's also gonna be a learning curve for staff. Change is very uncomfortable. People are gonna balk and it's not gonna work right away. So we're gonna have to do some testing and get all the kinks out. So that's gonna be uncomfortable. And it's not super familiar for our auditors. I talked to them about it and they're like, yeah, we have some people on BSNA, but we prefer Banyan. Well, of course you do, because it's been around forever. But
So Victoria is one of our peer cities that you talked about.
Yes.
So they've had to work with this before, right? Because they're state auditors or
I don't think they use that bill anymore.
they don't? Okay.
they're familiar with it. They know that how to pull the
Okay.
reports and stuff. Everything can be exported to Excel and they can get the numbers that they need.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so. So let's talk about a few of the process improvements. So payroll, I would propose if we did adopt this, that we would bring payroll back in-house. Right now, we're using ADP as a service. The fees are very expensive for ADP. You know that, your payroll, that your people are gonna get paid, and that your federal and state withholdings are gonna get paid. But it's still very uncomfortable and just every other week it seems that there's something wrong. There's, Kathy and Brenda are working on somebody's payroll that isn't right. And I think if we bring that back in, we get more control over how to do that, how to fix that. And then not only that, we get more time. We could process payroll all the way up until the day before payroll, where now we have a cutoff of like Tuesday afternoon to get payroll paid by Friday, so.
Can you give me an example of what's went wrong? Like if ADP is sending stuff to us incorrectly?
It's us putting stuff into the system and it not calculating it appropriately.
Okay.
Such as I said, maybe somebody gets a premium pay for something, like a shift that they worked, or their PTO wasn't calculated appropriately for some reason. And then we can't quite figure out how to fix it in the system.
Okay.
And
So-
Kathy Elke will be on customer service line for literally hours.
Really?
Working with them to try to resolve the issue, so.
That sounds delightful.
Sounds efficient.
How long did it go to, or how long ago did it go to ADP? How long has it been out of house?
For at least the last, well, the whole entire time I've been here,
Okay.
we've been using a vendor for payroll.
Okay.
I don't know I don't know anything beyond that or before that, so.
So let's say we don't have ADP anymore and it's done in-house. What happens if you're sick or you're on leave for 2 months for a surgery or something? Well, how does payroll get done?
Kathy and Brenda would both know how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not gonna do anything here where we have one person that knows how to do anything. That's not good. So that would be my proposal for that. The invoice processes, I talked a little bit about this, it'd be more of a workflow process. And so the recipient of an invoice, who would need to approve it, would get a notification, hey, you have 4 invoices that need to be approved. They can get it via text, they can get it via email. They pull up the BSNA and it's a dashboard and it says, here's your 4 invoices. They click on it, they can see a copy of the invoice. They can code it right there. If they don't know the code, they can look up where it was coded last year. So that helps them out. If it's not for them, say, 'cause Public Works sometimes get fire department. And so then they can say, I'm reassigning this to Callie. Boop, and then they send it off to him. So I feel like this is probably, a really good, efficient, paperless track for the invoice approval. So that's another process change that would happen. And then we're talking about operating in the cloud. A lot of people hear the cloud, like what's the cloud? We would log into a web browser, okay? So it's like we're just logging into some sort of internet site, and that's where we would all get to our accounting and bill paying software. And so it would be completely supported by BSNA, 100% updated by them at all times. We wouldn't have to say, okay, Tuesdays is when they're gonna do their updates. Make sure everybody is out of it at that time. And it would be a reduced cost for IT because right now Marco is maintaining our Banyan server. And that would go away, and it's about $250 per server that we have, sorry. So we'd get rid of our Banyan server, we'd get rid of the building services, BSNA server, so it's a minimum of $500 a month that we'd be saving in Marco fees that I know of, but I'd be looking to confirm that with them. So for our timeline, why am I here right now? This is coming before you tonight because the timeline is important for the implementation date. If we go all the way back to the yellow arrow, we can't get implementation until 2023, which means that we need a down payment now. Why do we need a down payment now? Because they won't start and get us even in the slot until we make some sort of a financial commitment. What happened is a lot of cities got that ARPA funding, and they're like, "Ooh, we're going to get new software." So I started this like right after I got here, investigating and talking to them like right at the beginning of April, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can get you in like right away in spring," and then now it's summer because everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to commit our ARPA funds to this." So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at for now. When we're talking financing, how are we going to pay for this? Like I said, the purchase, implementation, and training, we've had that in the CIP. And it's been split, the next slide will show this, but it's been split between general fund, water, and sewer. $25,000 will be due upon execution of the agreement. Annual fees, we're looking at about $16,925, and I have it broken out there. And then building inspection upgrade would be about $6,000 to execute at the agreement. They would be the first to transition if we did go ahead with this, just because, like I said, the accounting and bill pay is pushed out a little bit, but they did say that they could get building inspections transitioned quite quickly. So what does that look like for our annual budget? Annually, it's an increase of approximately $6,000. So for payroll, we'd actually be saving, as with our ADP fees. Finance and utility billing, like I said, Banyan's so cheap. It's $3,000. It's been a no-brainer for the last 10 plus years to use them. BSNA is going to be, you know, a little bit more money. And then building inspections, currently, like I said, we have the on-premise solution of $2,000. And it's gonna go up a little bit, but also we're gonna be saving on the back end for those IT fees. I met with Marco last Friday, and I have another meeting with them again this week, so we're just trying to solidify those numbers of pulling things slowly off of their hosted servers, so hopefully I can get you guys some numbers on that. Here's just the breakout of some funds, admin, water, sewer, for the implementation of $104,390. This is between 2022 and 2023, the CIP.
When we put this in the CIP, was this the system we were looking at, or we just knew that we wanted to upgrade?
The latter. So we hadn't specified a specific software.
And additional information, as I mentioned, the building inspections would upgrade to the cloud. This would be better access real-time data. So right now, when they go out and do an inspection, their information does not sync up to BSNA until they come back into this building and dock their stuff. With the cloud version, it would be real-time. They would be able to do the inspection and it syncs automatically. So I told Nick and Brian about that and they were pretty excited.
So would that take care of the address? We wouldn't have address files here any longer?
We still have address files. This isn't related to the accounting software. The address files might go the way of Laserfish at some point where they're scanned in and
Yeah, that's my goal for
accessed
Laserfish.
electronically.
My only question,
That's not connected to the
Okay.
financial software.
okay, with the Laserfish though, because if we're talking about getting, so I'm getting ahead of them here. We're talking about getting building inspections over to that, is what she's saying, right? So your inspections, because you know, right now you'll go into an address file, there'll be a little sheet still, right? I mean, the inspection that was done.
I can answer that. So
Okay.
right now it's housed in the BSNA program for the building department.
Oh,
We're
it
not
is?
printing, we're not,
Okay.
so if somebody were to call in, there's several of us who have access to the online records of the
Okay.
inspections.
So nothing goes in address files anymore?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
We keep a copy of applications, permits, and surveys.
Okay,
And then if there's, notifications about long grass and things like that, that would go in there. But they've gone from the big green folders down to little manila folders,
Okay.
just because we're not storing as much. Plans are all electronic.
okay.
So we have easy access to them, we just don't have them printed.
Okay. So is the goal then to get away from having any of those address files? And the only reason I ask is because if something were to happen with this cloud and all that, we could lose every bit of history we have on all the homes that are in Carver. So,
I think that goes into partially the Laserfish as well. So
Okay.
BSNA is one avenue to store, and then Laserfish is another.
Yeah. They're both Microsoft Azure supported, and so if that would happen, it'd be, I don't wanna say very unlikely, but I do wanna say very unlikely. A lot of people use the Microsoft Azure and it is backed up multiple times.
Mhm.
I don't know how often, multiple times a day, I think, but, so you're pretty much ensuring that your data is going to be safe that's why you pay extra to go
To the cloud.
to the cloud.
Yeah, most companies like Microsoft Azure and Salesforce, any other sort of web-based, cloud-based software tool out there, you're essentially shifting your disaster recovery to them. They have their own disaster recovery plans, right? They can share with you and say, here's how we back up data. So if this server goes down, here's how we handle you, right? We have a backup here, or this or that, or whatever. And so you're just shifting the disaster recovery to them versus you having to manage it on site with Marco.
Mhm.
There's some additional, so we have 3 trailers full of documents from the previous city hall that we stored in these trailers
Oh my God.
while we were kind of in transition.
I'm horrified.
Yeah.
But-
Where are they
trailers
today?
today?
I'm thinking the
At
next
Public
tour.
services. But, so, I mean, they're old agenda council packets, other records, but my point in that is we don't have the space, you couldn't fund the space to like,
Right.
in perpetuity fund to provide physical paper space, so it is, the mode is to put this all electronically, and then the way these systems are built, at least the way I understand them, is that there are a series of backups and disaster recovery plans, so it's, you know, it's essentially saved, stored. If the system goes down, they grab that storage file and then restore everything. But we probably, I would say, frankly, have more documents stored electronically right now than we do paper. And so the same premise exists that if it all got wiped out, whether it's accounting or correspondence, we'd be kind of in the same position. So we already rely on the system for that backup, but you know, we grew up in the same generation. I have that same feeling of like, where's that paper? I need that paper copy for the file.
Where's that flying around in space? With the historic district though, I would hate to see that because there's historical documents.
Yeah, I mean, if they're copies of documents, yes, but if it's like an original like document, like we found that's 100 years old, yes, those don't get.
Yeah.
We might scan them for just prosperity's sake of like keeping it all in, but we'll keep on to the original document. Like we have minute books from, you know, when the city first started, so those will be kept, but you know, council packets from, you know, the 2000s and
1973.
That's all right. Sounds good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get that project going, and so we do have M-Files right now, but we will not be renewing that. M-Files it was more expensive. It'll be an annual savings of $2,500 by going with Laserfiche, and it integrates with BSNA. Again, we're gonna be reducing IT hosting fees because we'll get rid of the M-Files server, and again, Laserfiche has unlimited users. Council can have, you know, I can grant you access if you want access to packets or, you know, property files. You know, it's just certain things you can lock down certain users. So it's so exciting. I'm a dork. Okay.
So, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, beyond the slide you had with the annual budget impact, there's more lines in there of negatives you're taking out, right? Marco IT hosting, the Laserfiche saving from M-Files. I mean, it's coming down to a very slim amount of money that's a delta with all of the benefits that you outlined. It's pretty impressive.
For
Even
the
like
annual.
Kathy's time on hold for 2 hours every 3 weeks
Right.
or whatever it is, you know.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I'm so excited and just, I don't know.
I love your passion. No, it's so exciting.
Maybe I missed one thing. So the Laserfiche you're talking about, that the Marco, the $2,500. So is that coming? Will that be subtracted out of the budget that you already put in here, or is that included in here?
Let me see.
I don't think it was in your,
Yeah,
Was it
that's
like
not
a-
in here. I didn't include that in here.
so it's 6,340 increase minus the 2,592.
That'll
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just the BSNA. I didn't want to include any IT or document management just because it's not BSNA.
Okay,
I didn't want to,
sure. But technically, that 2,500 then would be coming.
Yeah.
Would be subtracted out of that 63 even more. So okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, there we go.
tonight, I just want to get council direction. It says legal to review contract, but Dave Anderson was kind enough to review the BSNA contract and get back to me. So I was able to get his comments on the contract. So just with your direction, I'll just wait and see what I do with those comments. And then hopefully present council for consideration at the next meeting. So any more questions?
Any questions?
Nothing else. Looks
And
fantastic.
you said at your previous city, you said you had already kind of looked into researching, so was this also then like the lead vendor?
So this would have been the lead vendor, but we wanted cloud.
Okay,
And at the time that I was researching, they didn't offer a cloud version.
okay,
So then they dropped down to number 2, and number 1 was Tyler Tech.
okay.
So, because they were the only one on the market that had a cloud version.
Okay.
So,
So you've seen the change in the
Yep.
industry?
Yep.
My only thing was, I think that'd be great if it saved money on the payroll, which sounds like a future thing for the payroll module. But I guess I didn't know that, that there was the negative parts of ADP, and it just seems like that could be really time consuming to take that on, but.
So I guess can you speak
Yeah.
to, so when we do payroll,
Mhm.
and right, I'm assuming the city has to do certain tasks to get the data to ADP, right? So we're investing some time in payroll running right now,
Yes.
right? So current state to future state, what is the level of effort difference if we take that in-house?
I say it would be the same, if not
Because we're
less.
minusing out those 2-hour calls to fix stuff.
And unfortunately, Kathy's keeping multiple spreadsheets to double check AEP's work.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
multiple spreadsheets.
But yeah, good question.
Is it so awful that we'd want to switch payroll vendors sooner?
Well,
Or
I
is
thought
this
about
just
that
me?
because I did payroll in Banyan, for 5 years and it was easy peasy. I thought, but at this point, it's like, do we do it for the next 9 months while we
Where do you
wait?
spend your time?
Where do you
Yeah.
spend your time? Where do you spend your money? I think we trudge through.
My only question is for the building inspections, do Brian and Nick have iPads that they use? Do they need new ones that will connect to internet remotely?
They have iPads.
And they'll connect?
Mhm.
Okay, that was my only question. This sounds like a no-brainer to get our systems so that they're easier from both the user and the resident experience, so, and your passion for this is fun, so thank you for making what could have been a really boring presentation exciting. I think this is great.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right, let's see, moving on to community event, recreation program review. That's good.
See if I can make this as fun as Lynn made.
Yeah, no pressure.
Just the title sounds.
Okay, so I'm back tonight to talk about a community event or welcome event. So it's been kind of tossed around with both names, so I wanted to make sure we knew we were talking about the same event. So as part of the strategic plan that was done for the 2021-2022 time period, City Council identified coordinating a welcome event in parks to promote community engagement and education with residents. So back in April, I came to City Council work session to talk about a couple of the different elements of what that would look like, including location, date and time, the types of activities, and the budget. And through that discussion, it was kind of apparent that we needed to answer some more questions and kind of take a look at what we currently have going on with Chaska Parks and Rec, and then bring it back. So I'm here tonight to just follow up on the questions that came up and the ideas and some statistics and things like that. So tonight we're going to talk about some upcoming events and activities that are happening in Carver. And then also that have been held through January through July of this year, and other Carver's other large events. And then just a quick overview of the rec services agreement, and then looking for council feedback and guidance. So I want input and idea sharing as far as what a community event or welcome event or other activities you might be looking for us to do. So upcoming events and activities in Carver that are planned through the Chaska Parks and Rec include a back-to-school bash in the end of August. That'll be held at Community Park. They had previously held that in Chaska, and they had 80+ attendees for that. We have a kids concert band planned for Gazebo Park in September. And then in Village Hall, we have a Top Time Art that'll be held once per month, the last few months of 2022, so one in October, November, and December. They're scheduling a teen outdoor cooking this fall and a kayaking event this fall. And then in Village Hall again, we'll have a babysitting 101 and a Safe Kids 101 activity. They're gonna do a little turkey party in November for the youngsters. And then an adaptive program, another dance party, which will cover what they did earlier, but that is for the adaptive program. And they did that just a few months ago and had good results for that. And then the last thing on here is something that we're just taking a look at now, is if we want to plan something for the active older adults of Carver. And the idea was tossed around Carver coffee, cards, and conversation. So we can get feedback from council as far as, you know, is that something you think that would go over well? And if so, if anybody has feedback on ideas for those events, days, and times. Would certainly want to coordinate that with Carver Ridge as well, not bump into anything that they have planned.
Are these all to be, I mean, like the teen outdoor cooking, is that where they planning on doing some of these things? Kayaking, obviously, I would imagine.
Correct, yeah, they're all there in Carver, so either Bluff Park or Riverside Park, Lions Park maybe. Most, like the indoor ones are at Village Hall.
Okay. I'm happy to see these because it's a better array of options than I think we've seen in the past from Chaska Rec, so I'm glad to see these. I do have one concern with the kids concert on September 13th because that's only 2 days after Steamboat Days. And I don't know, I want them to have a successful event. I don't know if people will be kind of tired by that point or partied out downtown.
You know, I kind of like it. I always feel like there's always like this, like letdown when Steamboat is over with. You know, so like to have something downtown and to like say that Steamboat Days doesn't bookend summer. I like it.
Yeah, I'm just, my only concern is that maybe we'll see what the attendance is, but hopefully it's great.
These are the activities that have been held to date or through July. So we hosted, or Chaska Parks and Rec coordinated the open gym. And on average, they had 75 to 100 participants each week. They did a Tot Time Valentine Fun event in February with 12 participants. And then the adaptive program was also in February, where they did a dance and pizza party. And there were 16 participants, plus a lot of the participants had a caretaker with them. So there were about 40 people that were down for that event. So I heard really good feedback on that. And then there's a paddle and grub club at Carver County Parks that they coordinated with the Carver County Parks program, and they have 13 participants signed up for that. And then the Beanbag League is going to start next week, I believe, already. So they anticipated at least 40 people for that, and that's held at the community park. And that's an adult league, 18 and over. In addition to those events, Carver has the spring safety event and bike rodeo in May. The fire department and public services open house in October. The farmers market Tuesdays starting in July, running through September. And then, of course, Steamboat Days, September 9th through 11th. And then a couple questions had popped up about the recreation services agreement we had, so I just wanted to pull out some of the key factors in that. Chaska's providing us with rec services. Right now we are under a 3-year contract with them. That will run through next year, December of 2023. And Chaska shall provide a variety of recreation programs and events in Carver. Examples include open gym, yoga in the park, day camps, adult sports leagues, vehicle fairs, summer concerts, etc. City of Carver will pay for the direct costs with the exception of Chaska's labor costs. Examples include band fees, stage rental, movie rental, event supplies, and so on. Also, as part of the agreement, we have reciprocity for all recreation programs and activities provided by the Chaska Recreation Department, and all benefits related to the facility being identical for Chaska and Carver residents. So regarding the Chaska Community Center, Chaska Curling Center, and the town course, they were able to provide us with snapshots based on Carver residents and the discounts that they had received. And those numbers are up there. Chaska Community Center, 348 memberships with a resident discount of $41,284. The Curling Center had 39 memberships, a discount of $936. And then the town course had 58 Carver residents for a total of 479 rounds of golf, which resulted in a discount of $9,300. And it was a big spike from 2019. They noted that the discount in 2019 was $3,000, and the discount most recently was for 2020 was $9,300. And then future data will be gathered consistently in December. They said that's really the hard thing is, you know, with their reporting, they just want to give us consistent data and a snapshot at any specific moment, especially with the community center and things, people are dropping, coming in and stuff. So we'll see that more on a regular basis. And it is their intent to meet quarterly with the Parks Advisory Group when we get that up and running this fall. So then they can work up with that group to come up with additional items. So with all that in mind, looking for some feedback as far as what you would like to see for this welcome event or other activities.
Can you go back to the one that had the list of? Yes, that one. So we have a lot of fall, it looks like.
So I can start, so thank you for this. I know we were really horrible about giving you feedback, and this was something that I felt passionately about when we did our strategic planning session. Looking at this, you know, I still think I like the idea of some single community event to bring folks together in a park. That said, I'm still struggling with putting my thumb on what the what is and what that looks like and what it is. So maybe there isn't an event. I guess what I would like to see, I know that there are a bunch of events, and you had a slide that kind of listed the bike rodeo and even like the bike rodeo, the fire department open house. I think those are really good events. I wasn't at the bike rodeo this year, but for the city to kind of have a face, or for folks to have an opportunity to interact with somebody. You know, oh, my water bill is high. Well, here's, you know, information about the water bill, and, you know, did you know that we're expanding the water treatment plant and there's a long-term plan and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm looking for, like, where my head was at was more of those opportunities to have the city have a presence with a person in this ever like online world that we have. And it looks like, you know, we've got it covered in May, we've got it covered in October, certainly with the fire department and public services open house. You know, I would love to see the city have a table at the farmer's market, just that I know other communities do that. I know that Victoria does a really good job of doing that, of just, you know, do you have questions? Here we are. And just being available and to have folks come up to you, because I know folks have certainly come up to me when I'm at the farmer's market. So I'd just love to have more of a city presence there. But maybe it isn't a big event. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts.
Well, that's why I asked to see that long list again, because if those are promoted well, and we have these ones also, do we need something additional to what we have on the list here? Because if these are promoted well in the city, I think a lot of them will be well attended. And I know it comes out, and I mean, you can see it with the Chaska Park and Rec, but I think for us, the city, I think in the utility bills or however we get it out, Facebook and things, I think we need to do a little bit more self-promotion for some of these. Maybe it's not self, I guess it's joint promotion. Because I think if we get some high attendances, like if you have the kids concert band, whatever day it falls on. I mean, there's parents, right? So you got parents and kids and everyone together. I mean, we used to do those kind of things and they were very successful. So I think that may cover what we're.
This list isn't where my head was at. This is more like kid stuff. You know, I think where I was coming from is we're fresh out of COVID. People are starting to come out of their house and hang around. Let's see if we could have like welcome was where my head was at, but more of a get to know your neighbors and not necessarily be clustered or segregated by neighborhood, be it Copper Hills or Oak Tree or, you know, like get to meet somebody from across JCP. Or did you know that there was a downtown? You know, like remember when the liquor store closed, people saying there was a Carver store? There's a liquor store in Carver? You know, like,
well, there's some people who moved in and don't realize there's a downtown, period.
Right, yes, right. But like to that end of like just building community, but I think that this has been an exercise. So like in my mind, I think that these are really great. I think that these are needed. I want to keep doing these, but teen kayaking and the little turkey party isn't that meet your neighbor, you know? And we also do a really good job, and maybe to add to the list, like National Night Out, because I know that we've got our fire crews racing around to go to any and every block party that they're invited to.
We also have Lions events that are on here too, there's
Right.
brunches and
Yeah.
pork chop dinners and things that bring a lot of people down here that do some of that too. There's some crossing of the neighborhoods.
Same, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I don't know, does anybody else have any other?
I do like the idea of a welcome where it's just not something you register for, where a lot of these other ones is, plan ahead, register. That's new to me, the city having a table at a farmer's market.
Go to
I like
Victoria.
the idea. Okay.
I don't know if Chaska does it or not, but I've seen it in Victoria for sure.
So like
So who
a
sits
nice,
at?
a nice poster, a couple brochures, or just
Staff, I would volunteer, I'm not gonna volunteer you guys all, but like I think that I would volunteer to take a shift. There was a staff person, I didn't interrogate him when I was at the Victoria Farmers Market. And this was last year, I don't know if they're doing it this year. But it was just, I think it's a good opportunity, we've got information. I always think of, what Public Services gives out at their open house, where there are those little tablets that you can put in your toilet to see if your toilet tank is leaking. I'd love to put more of a public face on the city of Carver. We see the city of Carver get bashed so easily online, and that's a bigger issue to tackle. But I wonder if we just can't make this more human and try to do more face-to-face interaction. I think that can only help, build our sense of community. If and when, and hopefully it'll never happen again, but if there's another, water ban and we need folks to cooperate for a snapshot in time. And everything that we do in Carver's growing incredibly, but we always talk about maintaining that small town feel. And I think that's where I was coming from, that's something that maintains that, like, oh, that was Brenda Good. She helped me with my water bill when I called the other day. Like, there she is. Oh, that's Glenn Henry. Not quite what I pictured, but okay. Like, just to kind of keep that small town feel, build community.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think it's a bad idea in any way. It does land during the workday. So I know that that's going to pose some challenges for not only us, but staff also to be there, because we have to, I don't want to take away a ton of time of their workday either, but I think it's a good idea. Maybe it's every other, to space it out, see how it goes.
And maybe it's not this year. Being at the farmer's market starts next week, maybe it's once a month.
Right.
Although I think the key to especially like farmers markets is consistency.
Yeah.
So, you want to get the, gizmo seller and they're not there, then you stop going to the farmer's market,
I don't think I'm going to stop coming to the farmer's market because my face isn't there. I mean, people who stop at the farmer's market generally stop by every week. So I think if we aren't there a week, I don't think it's going to be I don't think people are not going to come because of that.
As long as we have a cadence that we share.
Yeah. Maybe once a month, and then that, if it works to do it this fast, that'd be 3 times this summer, and then we can revisit it. Have a little.
I mean, do you want to start it this summer?
I'd
Is
love
that
to.
what you're?
I could volunteer one day.
And I can volunteer as well.
And I can probably do it. And I can probably do it on one of the second Tuesday of a month, because my work is actually going to be there. So then I can probably be there for one too. So that will work.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, 2 birds,
Right,
1
well,
stone.
we've got 3 weeks covered.
Right, as long as it falls on the correct one for me, but, I think it'd be fine to start it this year, and I don't think it'd be a bad idea to have certain staff there also, as long as we're not, I don't want to set them back though, to have them feel like, oh my gosh, I am now like behind in my workday because of it, so however that looks, maybe Brent can manage
So
what he thinks might work for that.
logistically, is that something we could do yet this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of getting like a tent and some chairs, I think. I would encourage you to maybe take a more bite-sized approach and say you're gonna be there for maybe the half, like from 3 to 4:30. I don't know if,
It does get hot.
well, that and, you know, if you have that consistent cadence, they're there at that certain time, but, just selfish, I don't know if I'd want anybody on the team or frankly myself to sit out there for 3 hours and maybe talk to 3 people. It just doesn't seem to be an efficient. Or if it's like, you know, we can advertise it within the confines of the farmer's market that the city hall's gonna, or city's gonna have a welcome booth, you know, at the farmer's market from 3 to 4:30 or from 3 to 4. And it's, just with other projects that we've started, sometimes if we start too big and we wanna do it every week for 3 hours, you can lose a lot of momentum. Or if you start small and if it's like, oh, we're getting a lot of feedback, then you expand.
Okay.
But I think if we take every week and do it every week for 3 hours, I think it won't take too long before you start questioning the level of effort versus the amount of impact that you're having, so.
On the flip side to that though, because they are 3 hours long and people are getting off of work and coming through, if we ended at 4:30, are we missing half the people then?
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
I do worry a little bit of the optics of like, oh, I'm coming in hot at 4:30 and there goes the city.
Yeah,
clocking
I
out.
gotta clock it out for the day.
But I get it. Like I certainly,
I think if you,
But maybe that's why we pair up with a council member, you know, who would be there or would tag team or take the second half of the shift or something like that. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, I'm not married to any of this, except that it just seems like a good opportunity to be out there.
I guess for me, I would rather go the full time, but go every other, than cut it in half where people are driving in and we're packing up early, right? We're out of here.
Yeah.
I don't think that gives a good look either. It's like,
Yeah, maybe, you know, could we check in with Victoria and see what they do? Do they still go every week? Did they show up in 2021 and they didn't get a single person talking to them? You know, I think it's also important. It's like any expo you've been to. If the person sitting there is like this, then it's not going to be a good use of time. If somebody's, not that they have to be the carnival barker, but a little bit more outgoing and like, hey.
well, to echo that, like not to, this is an attempt to kick the can down the road, but I think it would be a good idea to check in with Victoria and, you know, I think there's some things that we could maybe do to encourage conversation, rather, like, you know, could we get some, you know, we had those Carver stickers or some other, like,
Right.
pens to hand out,
Yeah.
like, give somebody a reason to come up rather than like,
people love free
I
stuff.
know we all love city
People love
government, but
stuff.
like, not everybody loves it as much as
I
we
mean,
do.
even just a placard with something from, you know, the newsletter, right? Of, oh, construction is happening in these, right? Something graphic,
Yeah.
and people can go, oh, I didn't see that, you know, or
Yeah,
whatever.
put
Sixth
some
Street.
boards up and
Yes.
we can have like some signage.
Yeah.
But if there's a tchotchke that's free,
Yeah.
people will stop by your booth.
But I
We
just
do
think if
farmers
we're-
markets all the time.
If
Free, they're there.
if Brenda kind of does some of that research, we come up with a plan and then we implement it, I think we'd be better off than this kind of like throwing people. I mean, I think you can
Yeah.
still do that. I mean, if the
Yeah.
council wants to, do that, you know, we'd be paying overtime to our non-salary folks to be out there, and so I'd wanna try to be coordinated with that.
Could you offer a flex schedule on that day instead of overtime and see if maybe someone wants to come in late?
Yeah, I mean, if they are willing, I mean, the union contract says that these are their hours, but if they want, I mean, if they're wanting to, like, we don't have the ability
Sure.
to make them.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the last thing that I wanna do is like, I don't want this to be rushed, even though the farmer's market starts next week. We don't have to be there next week, we don't have to be there in July, like, let's come up with a plan and let's like, know what we're gonna do, because if it's me sitting there with a fistful of pens and we don't have like collateral or a board that says the city of Carver's tent or, you know, whatever, then that'll just look silly.
And and maybe this is a continued conversation, like, I think we have an ability to maybe be strategic about like who we want and all that, like.
Yeah.
probably want someone to come up to someone and ask about their utility bill because we don't have access to the software.
That was a bad example,
Yeah,
but
But
yes.
you know what I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, well, so like, it might be Brenda because she's got a background with the recreation programming and that's what we spotlight, or, you know, could be Lynn, but it's, you know, I think if we're intentional about what we want it to be, like, this isn't information, that's kind of like a newsstand, but this is it, you can't apply for a building permit here. Right?
Right, it's like,
Or like ask about how deep your
Can
footing
apply.
should be for a deck, I mean, we
Right.
can
No.
have flyers out, so I think we might need some time, and it could still be this year, but it might be towards like August or
What-
September.
And even personality wise, like if that sounds like what hell will be like for you to go there, like I want
Yeah.
people who want to be there,
Yeah.
you know,
or a place
there,
where
or like
someone could-
anyone, you know, like if that sounds awful, it's fine. Like, let's put up a schedule. We can sign
And
up.
somebody might also find it to be something different to get them out of the office,
Right,
do something
yeah.
different for the day.
Yeah,
They'd be happy to flex their hours and do something in the
on
morning for an hour
September
and a half.
27th, when
Yeah.
it's the last 70-degree
Nice.
day of the season, that sounds like a pretty good way to spend an afternoon.
But so, is it fair to say that you're looking at this as like an newsstand information sharing and not necessarily transactional? Because then that'll,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
Oh,
yeah.
no transactions, other than the giveaway.
Yeah.
Other than the giveaway,
Yeah.
that's it.
No
so
little
I'm sure if we
Dropbox,
told
the
Schultz he
utility
could
bill.
sit outside for 3 hours by himself, he would take us up on that.
I think we should.
Depends if you have an umbrella.
Or a lot of other people, I think,
I-
I'm not sure.
But it's fun to pick on him. But maybe we should, I mean, he can sit out there with his City of Carver like tattoos. We could give away like the City of Carver tattoos for the kids.
We love that. Okay.
So how about,
Almost something different than pets.
we'll spend some time talking about it, we'll put a plan together.
Okay.
It'll probably take us, I would
That's-
say at least a month or so to like do some research, talk about it, put something together and say, okay, this is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
In the interim, I mean, you certainly don't need staff's permission to go out there if you want to and like start chatting to folks. But I think we have enough folk, you know, talented folks who can come up with an idea, talk to Victoria. I'm sure there's some other cities that have presences.
And let us know too, if Victoria said it was a bust. They did it for 3 weeks and it was awful and it didn't work.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
Because it could be something where it's a little bit more of a, it wouldn't necessarily need to be at, it could be at the farmer's market, but it's kind of like a pop-up booth where you could put it
Right.
at any other type of event where
Yeah.
you wanted to have
Yeah,
a
sure, for sure.
presence.
Yeah.
So if we can make it kind of repeatable,
evergreen, as they say.
yeah, I don't think that's, I'm public sector.
Public sector.
No, I'm just kidding. Yes, evergreen.
Okay. Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Did we give you a little bit more
Thank
direction?
you.
Okay. If it's okay, we will hold city manager's report and council requests for the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Mock,
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember Sarah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.